Clarence Hill and Rick Karen here for StarTelegram.com. We just saw an amazing game. 41-37. The Cowboys knock off the Eagles in a wild shootout. Ton of stuff happened. We're still trying to figure out everything that actually did happen.
Well, I'm trying to catch my breath. This was a great game. Certainly that first half was, phew. I mean, the most points, or the second most points ever scored on Monday Night Football in the first half. And for all the great games that they've had here at Texas Stadium, this was a fitting in. The last Monday Night Football game at Texas Stadium, this lived up to all of that. I don't know if the fans wanted to go home. I don't think the team wanted to go home at one point, because I certainly thought it was going into overtime, but the Cowboys finally outlasted the Eagles. And what was a shootout, old Western shootout?
Yeah.
Tony Romo said he's glad the Cowboys were Clint Eastwood.
Glad he was Clint Eastwood.
Yeah, he was Clint Eastwood.
Let's talk about the Cowboys defense. They had trouble corralling Donovan McNabb the entire game, but they came up with a big stop at the end. Greg Ellis was right there in the middle of it.
Well, I mean, Greg Ellis is one I point to because, I've been covering this team since '97. He came in '98, and it seemed like he's been chasing McNabb all over the field every year. He got hurt in Philadelphia, had a terrible leg injury that almost ended his career chasing McNabb. A couple of years ago in 2004 on Monday Night Football, when McNabb ran all over the, I don't know if it was 20 or 30 seconds. It seemed like it was an hour, and they were just running back, and he made the big play. And tonight was like that for the first three quarters. They were chasing McNabb. He was making plays with his feet. But finally, at the end of the game, when the Cowboys needed to stop after the defense, keep in mind the defense got a turnover that helped the Cowboys get the game-winning touchdown. Then when the Eagles were trying to come back, Ellis got him on the ground, and so did DeMarcus Ware to win this game.
Let's talk about the other quarterback, Tony Romo. Throws an interception that leads to a touchdown, gives up a defensive touchdown. How did he come back from all that? I mean, that was a ton of stuff.
Well, I mean, you got the feel for Romo, because I know nationally, and certainly I was thinking about nationally, after he get, big Monday night game, everybody's watching, all the hype with Tony Romo, and all the, well, gosh, he makes mistakes late in games, and I got text messages, same old Tony Romo, he's a choker, whatever else, and the visions of Seattle when he had the ball slip out of his hand, last year's funk in December and January, and all the Jessica curse. Well, people were thinking about that, but Tony Romo battled back. He did not get down on himself, and he was perfect in the second half and helped lead this team.
Until he breaks the jinx of not being able to play well against Philly here. He lost the last two games. Now he breaks out of that mold, so he has a little bit more confidence, and people think a little bit more positively
a week
about
after
him.
The Cowboys getting a lot of respect for him coming back from that big hit he took in Cleveland, they gave more respect for him for battling what he did against the Eagles.
Showing the maturity, making bad plays. Let's talk about some news out of the game. Jason Witten had a separated shoulder, but he came back, fought through it. He should be okay. Roy Williams suffered a broken right forearm. Supposed to have surgery tomorrow. You're looking at 3 to 4 weeks. What's that do to the Cowboys defense? You look at plugging in Patrick Watkins, I guess.
Well, Watkins is probably going to go into the starting lineup. The funny thing about it is, Roy Williams only played half the time because they took him off the field on passing down. Certainly they miss his, hitting ability and what he does on special teams. I don't know how big a blow that's going to be for the defense, because they do have a lot of playmakers back. They got guys that can fill in. But hey, this game is over. And the funny thing about it is, it doesn't get any easier or any smaller next week.
Yeah, now it's the next biggest game of the year. Right. This was the biggest game of the year. The next week's just the next biggest one.
Right.
At Green Bay, Tony goes home. All that's going to envelop this week.
Yeah, when everybody talks about the Cowboys being the favorite of the NFC, to go to the Super Bowl, it's just week 2, but that's what the standard is. The Eagles came here trying to challenge that standard. Next week, the Cowboys go to Green Bay, who's also undefeated, playing well in the Aaron Rodgers. They were in the championship game last year. They certainly have Super Bowl hopes. The Cowboys have to prove it up there.
And they've got Aaron Rodgers playing well, so we'll see what happens next week. For Clarence, I'm Rick. That's it.